Take a look at your market news now. Asian counters were mostly in the green this morning. This was based mainly on hopes for a positive outcome from US President Donald Trump's high-stakes trade talks with Chinese leader Xi Jinping, while dovish comments from the Federal Reserve's number 2 suggested that the bank could slow its pace of interest rate hikes. Wall Street provided a positive lead. Gains all round in Asia as Tokyo's Nikkei was 1% higher at 22,177 by close. The Hang Seng moved 1.3% higher to close trade at 26,663 points, while the Shanghai Composite ended trade at 2,601, rising 1.1%. The S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average edged higher on Tuesday after White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow said a meeting between Donald Trump and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping on Saturday was an opportunity to turn the page on a trade war. All three of Wall Street's major indexes reversed losses following Kudlow's comments. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 0.4% to 24,748 points. The S&P 500 gained 0.33% to 2,682 points. And the Nasdaq Composite was only marginally higher, ending the day at 7,082 points. Now for more on the market news, we cross to the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Arabile Gumede is standing by. Good afternoon, Arabile. Viceroy coming out with a report a little bit earlier on. Take us through how that affected the markets, if in any way.
Yeah, good afternoon, Zinga. Well, the details of what is in that report from Viceroy for Nepi Rockcastle, that is, they've fingered sort of Nepi Rockcastle. We don't know exactly what is in the report, but it does seem that the report itself, having just come out, means a lot of bad news, particularly for Rockcastle. So we'll see how that fares. But clearly market commentators not liking the news, dropping nearly 14% right now is where Rockcastle sits. It is at the bottom now of the gainers, or top of the losers, shall I say, if you want to put it that way as well. So really interesting. Just more details is expected to, of course, come out. Exactly what is in that report we'll obviously get from Viceroy as well, and we'll get to unpack exactly what it is they found. Of course, having seen the likes of Steinhoff come through, that has been a big issue. But there is a blip with the fact that Capitec not so long ago did receive a similar report out from Viceroy, and that was seen to have a few blemishes, a few dents, and a lot of their integrity, Viceroy that is, has been questioned quite significantly. So whether that still remains the par for the course and whether we should really be taking the Viceroy report seriously is still to be seen in due time, and it will continue to unpack that. The market, however, locally still turning positive despite Viceroy going down by such a massive amount. Let's check in on how those local and European markets are faring. Well, Makwe Masilela from Makwe Fund Managers joins me now as we unpack a little bit of that market picture and detail exactly how things are faring. Makwe, thank you so much for joining us. Let's quickly talk about that Nepi Rockcastle situation. We don't know the details of what came out from that Viceroy report, but it just seems the moment Viceroy does anything with any company, it's downhill from there. Now 15% gone.
Sure, and I think one can safely say it's more of a knee-jerk reaction up until we get to see the details of the report, you know. But yeah, so far the markets don't like it. But like you indicated earlier, you know, it's just so interesting. At some point, the guys, when they were criticizing the likes of Capitec, people started criticizing Viceroy themselves. So you start asking yourself that, but why should we listen to them this time around, you know? But I think the details will always be us getting the full report. But so far, markets don't like it.
Yeah, clearly not. I mean, falling now to just below that 100 Rand mark, 98 Rand and 28 cents or so a share, and falling even more. Year to date, it's fallen 45%. So it is really on a downward trajectory this year. Let's talk general market movement though. 1.33% to the good for the JSE. That Rockcastle story not necessarily denting things along. We had a negative day yesterday, positive day on Monday. It's a little topsy-turvy. It's a little bit everywhere, isn't it?
I think we're getting used to that, you know, and yes, it's not surprising to see the likes of the Nespas up almost 4%, Richmond. Those are our heavyweights, including even the likes of Billiton. But I think it's more of the sentiments have changed, you know. We have got the negative news coming out of Monday, on Monday from the Donald Donald Trump saying he doesn't see a chance of them getting anything done with China. But yesterday, the report that came from Larry saying that, listen, we've been talking to the guys, you know, gave us more of a thing that the guys probably will turn a page and they might at least come up with something that the markets feel that, okay, at least this might be sorted out. Yes, we don't expect a full agreement when it comes to trade talks, but we are more optimistic what's going to happen when it comes to the dinner, and hence the G20 meeting is so critical, not because of the meeting itself, but because of the possible dinner that the guys will be having on Saturday.
Yeah. Will it happen, though?
Hence, I say a possible one. Donald being Donald, we know him. He can change tomorrow or not, but chances are it's going to happen. And I think he knows that what he's carrying. I think both parties don't like what they've seen so far when it comes to trade. And I don't think they did anticipate this kind of reaction when it comes to the global economy, when it comes to markets, stuff like that. But now this is reality, just to see what is happening to the global economy of growth. We've just seen even a report from the World Trade Organization stating that if this whole thing continues, 2019 is still going to be a bad year. So trade issues themselves, they're causing global economy's growth not to grow, and no one wants that to happen. And China as well, they said, we know we've got this thing up our sleeves when it comes to treasuries, but we're not going to use this because it can also backfire. So none of the parties need that, but I don't think they thought it will be as bad as it is as we're talking now.
Yeah, so certainly an interesting conversation there. But speaking of Donald Trump, he says he's not really, excited or happy with the appointment of Jerome Powell as Fed chair. Let's remember that he did, put him forward and say that he should be the Fed chair. Now saying he's not happy with the way he's doing things. Of course, the gradual hike in interest rates in the United States from the Federal Reserve chair, or in South Africa's context, a governor of that Reserve Bank there. He's saying that perhaps, he is somebody that isn't right for the market. Do you think he's at risk of losing his job here?
Not necessarily, but I think the guy's been honest. And I think that one thing that we can take from Donald is he speak up his mind that, hey, I'm not happy with the guy. Yes, it's my appointment, because he's saying, I'm trying to do with government spending, increasing government spending. I'm trying to cut taxes. Here you are, as a Federal Reserve Bank, you are working against me by increasing interest rates. And I think also testimony to that is the news that we got from General Motors, that the guys might be closing some of the factories. There might be almost 14,000 jobs which are at risk, because people are finding more difficult, companies, to say, listen, with interest rates going up, it becomes more expensive. But truth be told, I don't think the Fed will ever listen to Donald. They will continue to do whatever they're supposed to do, because if they start listening to him, that will now put their credibility in question, and you really don't want to do that. And maybe it's because we've never seen something like this before, getting a U.S. president directly criticizing the Fed. So I think it's one of those things that we just have to start living with.
Yeah, it's a little weird, and as you say, even a little scary perhaps in somewhat, because that pressure could really press on to them. But as we spoke about the likes of General Motors perhaps leaving, shutting down at least 5 factories, 15% of their workers perhaps leaving as well. It's weird, because Donald Trump's sentiment when he came into the market said he was going to bring back all these jobs, especially the blue-collar jobs like manufacturing. Now for them to leave, that sends a clear sentiment that things aren't as good and as rosy as perhaps things seem, and perhaps he is, beginning to see some weakness in that economy. Do you think that's going to translate itself into the currency, and therefore seeing us perhaps do a little bit better now sitting at 13.95 odd?
I think what the currency will depend on the meeting. I think the Federal Reserve President himself, Jerome, is giving a speech today, and tomorrow are getting the minutes to be released of the meeting that they had before. If maybe we start realizing that they're not going to start increasing as fast as they're supposed to, or maybe they start hinting that they're worried about global economic growth, those are the things that can definitely affect the currency going forward. Not forgetting what is going to happen with Brexit, and also on the other side of the Atlantic, what's happening with this whole thing of the European Union and Italy when it comes to their budget. But I think his speech today as the Federal Reserve President, that will give more guys, more of a guideline that, yes, we know December meeting you're going to increase, but more importantly for us is the rate and the number of increases to expect in next year.
Yeah. Certainly an interesting story there. The price of Brent crude oil also still hovering around that $60 a barrel mark. So that is continuing to be of interest. And a great announcement having come out not so long ago. The AA estimating as well that the price of fuel could drop by R1.85 in December. Diesel could drop by around R1.40 or so as well. That is certainly going to be good news going into the month of December, following a drop in that oil price. But that's where the buck stops. Makwe Masilela from Makwe Fund Managers having joined us today. That's how we wrap the market outlook for now. And Zinga, it's back to you in studio.